Raphael Warnock. I could talk about his early life and how he benefited from social programs while he worked for churches that thwarted them. I could talk about the fact that he's a Christian pastor that supports gay marriage and abortion. I could talk about how his church evicts people out of low-income housing for being just barely short on rent. I could talk about how his ex-wife asked the court to bring him in for questioning in a child custody battle, which would allow her lawyers to grill him on unpaid childcare expenses. But I'd like to expose something that is much more sinister than all of that: his religious ideology. As evident when observing his political beliefs, Warnock is a progressive, but he also prescribes to Black liberation theology. To dive into Black liberation theology, we first have to understand what liberation theology is. Liberation theology is a situated theology. It interprets the gospel from the vantage point of the oppressed, and it claims that God intended the gospel to be interpreted as such. God became human in Jesus to bring good news to the poor and woe to the rich. Jesus preaches the liberation of the oppressed and asserts that his kingdom belongs to the poor. The gospel disrupts the domination of privilege. According to Black liberation theology, the notion of blackness is not merely a reference to skin color, but rather a symbol of oppression that can be applied to all persons of color who have a history of oppression, except whites, of course. And America has still not reckoned with slavery, Jim Crow, poverty, police violence, prisons, and most recently, the MAGA-turned-insurrectionist movement. Black churches serve as a refuge from America's ills and injustices like those. Pastors, parishioners, and church members have all had to protect one another from the racism of white Christians, politicians, and others during the times of slavery, Jim Crow, and the civil rights movement. Violence, an American pastime, was and still is used to silence truth through dissent. Church burnings, murders, and character assassinations, as Pastor Jeremiah Wright faced, are all used to silence voices calling America and its racial and social injustices to account.
No, not God bless America, God damn America, that's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human.
So this is the ideology that Raphael Warnock embraces, one in which he is part of a group that was oppressed and continues to be oppressed by white Christian capitalists. I present to you this by one of his contemporaries.
So my plea to you as learners is to not trivialize the concept of Black theology like it's tangential. I think it has the purpose to not only redeem Christianity in this country, but to help rebrand it.
So according to Black theology, Christianity in America has yet to be redeemed. And pulling from the excerpt I read earlier, America still has not reckoned with slavery, Jim Crow, poverty, police violence, prisons, and most recently, the MAGA-turned-insurrectionist movement. Of course, the proclivity of this ideology comes quite easy to Mr. Warnock, considering his ties to Dr. James Hal Cone, the founder of Black liberation theology, who served as his academic advisor at the Union Theological Seminary as his, quote, mentor, and argued that white Christians are satanic and advocated for the destruction of everything white in society. He also wrote that the goal of Black theology is the destruction of everything white so that Blacks can be liberated from alien gods. Warnock also delivered Cone's eulogy, saying how blessed we are that someone of the spiritual magnitude and power and commitment of Dr. James Hal Cone passed our way. The question that comes to mind is, what is the solution to these white Christian capitalists and the oppression imparted by them? Well, take a listen to this.
If everybody will give their fair share, everybody can eat. You know, that's how the early church actually operated. The early church was a socialist church. I know you think that's an oxymoron, but the early church was much closer to socialism than the capitalism. Go back and read the Bible.
So it's socialism, is it? I guess Christians are really supposed to be socialists. This would make sense, considering it's one of the main ideas behind liberation theology.
Unless capitalist infrastructure is overcome, we will not be able to have freedom and equality. There is no just anti-racist capitalism. There is no just feminist capitalism. There is no just LGBTQ affirming capitalism. The oppressed will not be totally free without socialism.
An inconvenient fact I'll mention is that Warnock was employed in the mid-1990s at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Harlem when in 1995 the church hosted socialist Cuban dictator Fidel Castro. Coincidence? I'll let you decide.
I give to you the hero of the struggle of people throughout the world, Comandante Fidel Castro.
I might add that Warnock's advocacy for abortion and gay marriage, in spite of him being a Christian pastor, is inherently anti-family, which, as you can guess, is a very socialist inclination, made evident by the fact that Karl Marx, author of the Communist Manifesto, wrote about the destruction, dissolution, and abolition of the family. I apologize that this video is not exhaustive, but for the sake of brevity, I will leave you with this. Black liberation theology is one of the most destructive heresies in Black American churches today. It's shaped the way many Black people think about God and government. It's shaped the way many people in Black American churches perceive themselves and others. Raphael Warnock is a Black liberation theologist. He believes that America, white Christianity, and capitalism is inherently racist and oppressive. He has been influenced by radical racists and socialists. He preaches the gospel through a victimhood lens. He is running for a full term in the Senate, and these are the ideas he holds. Raphael Warnock is himself a radical and should not be elected to the U.S. Senate. Please share this video with anyone you know who lives in Georgia to expose them to the truth about Raphael Warnock.